It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show!
Hey there, everybody. It's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name's Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey, gang.
Les Webster. Hello, all. And Liz Newman.
Hello, everybody.
How are you doing?
Peachy keen.
Doing good.
Okay, hope everybody
Apparently
out there.
embalmed.
Yes. Hope everybody out there is doing okay. So what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy?
Oh, man. Well, after our last show, was that our last one? I think it was maybe the one before. I did watch Kenobi. Pretty good series. I liked it. I liked that it dealt with the kids because, you know, there was questions there. I don't know. Like I said, I thought it was pretty good. Didn't you say people didn't like it, or?
Name me a Star Wars series that people don't like.
Yeah.
Or Marvel, for that matter.
True.
They all have their detractors.
The only thing I didn't understand was the Grand Inquisitor.
That's because you haven't watched Rebels.
Okay.
That's where they were introduced.
Well, I mean, I liked her, but I felt like once we found out who she really was and what she was doing, what she was doing didn't make sense. It's like, you hate Vader, so why are you killing all these people? For Vader. I mean, you know, it just did not make sense to me. And then even after, you know,
it was a means to the end. She was trying to get it in so she can get close enough to Vader to take him out.
Yeah.
And the best way to do that is to go after the other, to become an Inquisitor and hunt down Jedis. Which, I mean, it's not like Jedis helped her. You know, nobody came to rescue her.
Yeah. And it was kind of cool how they revealed who she was, too. When you find out, you know, she was the only kid who survived what I think is probably the brutalest thing that's happened in Star Wars, you know.
Maybe.
But then, for her to go after Luke, that didn't make any sense to me. Why was she going to kill him? He had nothing. He didn't know who this guy was, didn't know who she was, didn't even know Ben at that point, you know. So it was kind of like, why? That just...
But she knew who Vader was.
Yeah.
And this was Vader's son.
Yeah.
She knew Vader was Anakin Skywalker. She found out that Skywalker had a son on Tatooine, and that's why she was there.
Yeah.
As well, if this is another way to get after him by killing his son.
Yeah, like I said, I liked it. I liked her. I just didn't understand her motives a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But, I mean, when you find out her story, that was pretty fucked up, you know. You think someone's there to help you, and he starts killing everyone around you, you know. I can see how that could traumatize a kid.
I'm surprised she survived it. That's part of my thing.
Yeah.
Because, I mean...
She said he pretended that she was dead. Can't they sense that?
She was stabbed with a lightsaber. You know,
Yeah.
that tends to kill people.
Oh, come on. They cut Darth Maul in half and he came back.
Well,
which I have a problem with.
You're not the only one, buddy.
I had a problem with that. Yeah.
And Vader took a couple of hits and then burnt like a chicken nugget.
Well,
He started out burned like a chicken nugget, so.
He lost limbs. That's different than being cut in half.
Yeah.
Or being stabbed.
He lost all of his limbs, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of them he already lost, so I mean. Yeah.
So, yeah. And then parts of it I had to think, he kills him later. So you kind of, you kind of realize, oh, he's going to get out of this because he doesn't die until later.
Well,
later, Vader.
Yes. Later by Vader.
well, that's a risk when you do stories that take place before something that's already been established.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's like the prequels. I mean, you put Obi-Wan Kenobi in dire straits and it looks like he's about to die. You can go, oh no, oh wait, he lives for another 3 movies. Okay, never mind.
He dies later.
Yeah,
He dies later.
It's hard to establish stakes when you're doing this.
Yeah,
for sure.
I know people had asked for season 2, and it's like, with what? I mean, that this pretty much filled in that little gap there. He can't do too much more with the kids without ruining canon going on, Well,
it doesn't necessarily have to involve the kids, but
yeah. But I will say it did make sense after everything that he went through with Leia in the first movie, why he was the one that she called out to. So that was kind of cool too.
Yeah.
But then Brandon had asked me, she's always a princess. Why was she never a queen? And it was like, well, did her planet blow up or something? And there wasn't really anything to be a queen of, You
see, that the princess thing I never quite understood that myself.
Yeah.
I mean, what is she a princess of?
Wasn't it Organa or where she was put?
Alderaan?
Yeah, Alderaan?
But I don't know. I mean,
but Bael's not. Bael was a king, not a king.
Well, I mean, even Padme wasn't a hereditary ruler.
Right.
She was elected.
I've never understood that, but that's
They're all just words, man. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
It's all made up.
Yeah.
It's all made up, and the points don't matter.
So if anything, the whole princess title, if it meant anything, should have meant something for Naboo, not a Alderaan.
Yeah.
Right, and that's what I wondered later on. Was that supposed to be a reference to Amidala? I don't know that makes sense. Again, it's the world's worst witness protection program, if it is. But anyway.
Yeah.
Well, but she kind of made it sound like when she got captured, she told him she was a princess. And, her dad was going to send armies after them. So
I think you might be confusing that and Spaceballs. I don't remember her saying anything about being a princess.
Yeah, when
Star Wars.
When the Grand Inquisitor
something I haven't seen.
Kenobi,
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
as
sorry.
a little kid. Yeah. And she said that her dad was going to send armies, so I just assumed that she was princess of where he was at,
Maybe.
But they've never established that Bael was like Bael, and I don't know the wife's name. I don't remember it right now. But they never established that they were royalty.
No, he was a senator.
He was just a senator.
He was just a senator
to the Republic Senate.
Yeah. So I don't know where the princess comes from, but the princess title comes from, other than George was making this shit up as he went along.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because if it came from her mom, it wouldn't make sense because you're trying to hide this kid.
Right.
Not display her as royalty.
That was my point.
Well, yeah.
Exactly.
Well, just like you talked about Luke still being called a Skywalker, even though he's on a planet that Vader would never ever think about going to, but he's still called Skywalker.
Yeah.
Although I've read in some stuff saying that Skywalker's a little bit more of a common name. I'm like, okay, well, whatever.
It's like Smith. Everybody's name is Skywalker.
Wasn't there a movie that was The Last of the Skywalker? Or...
No, I think you're thinking of The Last of the Mohicans.
There was The Rise of Skywalker. Was
Rise
the
of
last
Skywalker.
movie.
Okay. Which we'll get into that in a minute.
Oh, we will?
Oh, we will.
No. We won't be talking about that one.
Well, not that one in particular, but... Yeah. But no, like I said, I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. There was something else I watched.
No, that was all you watched. No, I'm kidding.
I can't remember, so that's not have been that good.
Mm.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. No, it was something today. I came on after Supernatural did. And normally they play some really good movies after that goes off. Usually some kind of comic book movie or something. But this one was with Will Smith. And he was fighting a clone of himself. What the hell is the name of that movie?
Oh.
A clone of
himself.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gemini Man. Gemini Man?
Gemini Man.
Yeah, something like that. I didn't like that one.
I saw the trailer and I was like, okay, no. So, bravo to you to actually watch it. So, you know.
Yeah, you know how I am. It started and I was too far into it. But it kind of, the way it moved, maybe it's because I wasn't paying a lot of attention to what was going on, but a lot of the time it moved too quickly, if that makes sense. Because I know it's hard for a movie to move too fast, but I think it did. Because a lot of the times I was lost, and it's like he had figured something out that maybe he forgot to tell us that he had figured out. Or he did, but he just didn't spell it out. I don't know, but a lot of the times it was just kind of like, wait, what? And I thought some of the, like the ways that they were catching him, to me it felt lazy because then all of a sudden, oh, he's got a tracker in him. Well, duh. I mean, yeah. I think if you're fighting a clone, the better option instead of, oh, we're going to put an air tag on him would be, this guy knows me so well, he knows my every move. He knows what I'm going to do. That's why he knew where you were at, because he knows what you're going to do. Instead, you know, like I said, they put a tracker in you. So I thought that was kind of lazy. But, yeah. Not great. Wouldn't watch it.
The film follows a retiring Force Recon Marine Scout sniper who is targeted by a much younger clone of himself while on the run from a corrupt private military company.
Yeah. And you guys remember the CGI they used for Superman's mustache? It's kind of the same thing they used here for his clone, because dude just looked... I know they were going for Fresh Prince look, but it was like, man, it was bad.
Not as fresh as it should have been.
Yeah.
Directed by Ang Lee. So I'm sure all the action sequences were slow motion.
Yeah. That's probably the only part that didn't move quick.
Why? Why does he do that?
Obviously, he thinks it looks cool.
Yeah, maybe him and Snyder went to the same director school, you know.
I mean, I remember seeing Mission Impossible 2, in which he directed, and it was like, that happened throughout the entire movie. And I was like, oh my God.
Yep.
The things that are supposed to be going fast-paced are going slower than a snail's crawl.
Yeah. What they think it's cool. We're going to show you how badass this person is by slowing it down.
That's fine, but you use that sporadically. You don't use it for every fucking action sequence.
Right, because after a while it loses its, that's badass.
It loses its impact, yes.
Yeah.
The impact, that's funny.
Like, God bless. And, not to rag on him, but Zack Snyder did the same thing in Rebel Moon. I think Rebel Moon could have actually been a pretty decent story if he would have quit doing that. To me, it's another lazy technique, because you're telling the audience what they should be paying attention to at that point. Don't tell me what to pay attention to. I can decide for myself if that's important enough, But when they slow it down, it's kind of like, ooh, look at this, that annoying little friend you don't want to watch a movie with.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they do when they do that. Look at this. This is cool. Well, just fucking play it. I'll decide if it's cool or not. You don't have to.
Right, if it's cool, then you don't have to tell me it's cool.
Right, You're selling it a little too hard,
right.
Which isn't cool.
Which is not cool, exactly.
So, yeah, this movie did suffer from that, too. Yeah, I wouldn't watch that one again. But, you said Mission Impossible is the last thing. At the Oscars, I think it is, they just opened a new category for stunts, which, heck, after Bruce Lee doing his own stunts, Jackie Chan doing his, I think Diesel does his own, Van Damme did his own, they should have had this category a long time ago, a really, really long time ago. But they went ahead and opened it, and someone had made the comment about, well, I bet Tom Cruise is really pissed off right now. And I'm thinking, well, what the hell would Tom Cruise be pissed off about? Well, I started looking into it, and I did not know that he did all of his stunts on Mission Impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one of them. If he's hanging on to the side of an airplane, he really was hanging on to the side of an airplane.
Yep.
They said the airplane went up in the air at least 5,000 feet at times with him hanging on to the side of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, jeez.
They're making another one.
Are they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
he's like 62 years old.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah, the part 2 is supposed to be out. I don't know when. The part 2 I think they changed the title, but it was originally supposed to be. But it was supposed to be part 2 of the last episode, the last movie.
Mm-hmm.
So that's impressive. I don't care a lot for Tom Cruise, but after them showing some of his stunts that he does, how they recorded it and how it was in the movie, it was like, wow. They said there was one which he was driving a motorcycle down the side of a mountain.
Yeah.
And, they're showing, of course, he's on a ramp in real life, but in the movie he's driving on a mountain, and he launches off this thing, and he parachutes down from there. They said he recorded that 6 different times. They were fine after the first take, but he is such a perfectionist that he's like, no, I think I can do this better. I think I can hang on to that motorcycle longer, or I think I can get a little higher. And it's like, dude, you got a death wish.
That was in the last film, because I remember seeing the footage of them filming all that.
Yeah.
I don't remember where, but I remember seeing it.
I mean, hell, even if they would have left that ramp in there, that was pretty freaking awesome what he was doing, But, yeah, Bug's not a fan of Tom Cruise.
Apparently not, gosh.
I think I saw it when I was watching the show on Pluto, and right around the time that the movie was coming out, they took some time to show stuff like that.
Yeah.
That had to be where I saw it.
It's crazy. I don't think I've ever watched any of those. Not with Tom Cruise. I mean,
That is
isn't
crazy.
it like a remake from an older movie or?
TV series.
It's
TV
kind of
series?
more of a continuation of the TV series.
Yeah, I think I've seen the TV series,
budget.
but I don't think I've seen a lot with Tom Cruise in. I mean,
I've seen the first two, and that's it. I've been told I would enjoy the third one with Philip Seymour Hoffman as the bad guy. I'm like, well, that's kind of that's enticing, but I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know why I haven't watched him. Like I said, he kind of fell off my radar when he started jumping on couches and stuff, you know.
I mean, I know.
But I loved him in Legend. That will always be my Tom Cruise movie.
I know Les's feeling about the first film, so I know he hadn't seen any more than that.
I've never watched one intentionally, but I have seen at least two of them.
I mean, I may have to break down and watch it just because, like I said, that's pretty cool that he can do things like that. I think that's why I've always had a high respect for, like I said, Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan and them, because they do that. They're not asking somebody else to look cool. They're actually doing it themselves, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them think they're worth too much to do that.
I mean, I hadn't seen the first one in a long, long time, and I don't know how well I would enjoy it now after seeing the show. And if you've seen the movie and know anything about the lore and all that, you probably understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
it's not the same.
Well, it's not the same, but the fact that I mean, I'll go ahead and spoil it since it's a freaking old movie.
Yeah.
But John Voight is basically playing Jim Phelps, which is Peter Graves' role on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And then we find out toward the end of the film that he's a double agent.
Ah.
He turned, and that's the reason why you don't like.
You're just noping out.
That's why you don't like the film, right, Les?
That's about it, yeah.
That's and they actually, apparently, from what I have read in the last couple of years or so, because you know how I am when I'm hooked on something, I start doing a little research. They actually asked Peter Graves, and he's like, "No, I ain't gonna do this. You're screwing my character. This is the character I developed this, and you're turning around fucking him. What the hell?"
Yeah.
And oh god, Greg Morris, who is Barney?
Yeah.
He actually left during the film at the premiere. He just like, no, I can't support this. He's like, nope to this shit.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's a shame.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, that's all I got. Like I said, I thought that was pretty cool, and it is sad they can't go back and, you know, they should at least recognize what he did, because that was pretty cool.
Who was the Western fellow that did all those stunts? He's the one that they based the scene from Raiders on, where
I think I know who you're talking about, but I don't remember his name off the top of my head.
He was a Native American. Offhand, I can't remember, but to me, that's a guy that needs
some sort of recognition.
Oscar.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They said that Tom Selleck and Clint Eastwood did their own stunts when it came to horses, and actors like John David Washington and Josh Hutcherson have also performed their own stunts in Western.
Cool.
And James West. I like James West. I think a lot of the ladies like James West.
Talking about from Wild Wild West?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Robert Conrad had a pretty good career.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That he did.
All right. I think that makes it my turn.
Mm-hmm.
So I watched a movie, and this is sort of a funny story because I just sort of pick movies at random just based on like the cover art and the very vague description. In this case, on Tubi. And I hadn't watched a silent film in a while, so I kind of stumbled across one, which is a French adaptation of The Fall of the House of Usher, from 1928.
Okay.
And my thing is, I don't really look these things up because I kind of want to get as much of a solid. I mean, unless I know what it is, obviously. And in this case, I wasn't familiar. So I got to just watch it without really knowing anything about it. And to be honest, I wasn't really all that thrilled about it. I didn't think it was all that. I mean, it was okay. It's actually kind of complicated. It's an hour-long film of The Fall of the House of Usher, which is obviously the Edgar Allan Poe story. The thing you have to know about, I mean, and I've read the story. It's been a little while since I read it, but I've read it, and it's not particularly plot heavy because it's a short story. There's not all. I mean, spoiler alert for a short story that came out almost 200 years ago. The story is about basically the collapse of a family and symbolically the house they lived in. And it's at this point, it's not a big family. The story has a guy and his sister and how they managed to just sort of crumble into madness and basically die in a fire. This movie actually gets creative with that, though it does so in a weird way that doesn't really add much story. And so the movie has it basically is elements from another story is what it has. Usher is the main guy, and it's his wife in this movie, and he's obsessed with he's painting a portrait of his wife, and it appears that there's something supernatural going on with that. Because the one thing that this movie does really have going for it is, for 1928, they do some really fun stuff with special effects. I mean, okay, not necessarily the model of the house. That looks pretty cheesy, but like, I'm almost hesitant to try to describe what they do with the painting. The painting looks, I mean, it looks just like her to the point where it might as well just be her standing in a mirror. And they do there's some blurring effects to make it so it's not obviously that. But then there's also these times when you'll see her move, like short, sharp little movements that in a modern CGI thing you would just attribute to the CGI, but there was no CGI. But yeah, there's a couple of times where it's the painting's kind of in the background behind him, and it's a silent film, so there's not dialogue at all. I mean, even the cards that they have are not dialogue. I mean, so these guys mouths are barely moving for the most part. It's just them. It's mostly just the main guy standing there looking intense. But every so often you'll like see her in the painting blink or have a little head twitch, and it's a really cool effect for being as probably simple as it was. And there's a good bit of like superimposed images here and there spread throughout the movie. It's got this really surreal vibe to it. I like the special effects. The rest of it I could kind of do without. Well, the thing that makes this funny is that I looked it up earlier today because I was like, oh, I probably ought to know a little something about this movie. Well, apparently it is widely considered to be one of the greatest films of all time. And here my schmuck ass didn't really think it was all that great. It's been listed as influences for people like Kurosawa. I mean, potentially, although I question, it mentions Roger Corman, but I don't know how far that really goes. I don't know how inspirational it was. Roger Ebert considered it to be one of the greatest movies ever. Interestingly enough, one of the screenwriters for it, there's two guys, the director Jean Epstein and another guy wrote the screenplay, and apparently they couldn't like get along, and so the other screenwriter left in the middle of the production. The other screenwriter was Luis Buñuel, who is a legendary filmmaker in his own right. This was apparently his second film credit. So, yeah, apparently either just didn't get it or put too much emphasis on stuff that wasn't important in this movie, because I wasn't all that thrilled about it. It's an extremely slow moving film also, for being as short as it is. It doesn't go anywhere. I mean, and it's not supposed to. It's literally about the house burning down eventually. And this other stuff they added, this very, what's his name? The guy with the picture. Who's the guy with the Dorian Gray? It's got a Dorian Gray vibe to it, which I thought was a weird addition to this, because in the story it was not his wife, it was his sister, and she was just getting sick, and then they bury her, and turns out she's not actually dead. She comes back, but anyway,
not dead yet.
Again, spoilers for a literally 100-year-old movie based on a 200-year-old story. But yeah, so that's how I spent my week, was being overly critical of apparently one of the greatest silent films ever. But, whatever, as one does.
Aren't you ashamed of yourself now?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
Wait, are we still talking about the movie? Because that whatever. I mean, I honestly, my take on it is I would recommend it just for the effects, and it's not that long. I mean, it's, like I said, not an exciting watch, but the effects have a really cool effect, if you'll pardon the pun. Liz wouldn't like it because they do some jarring stuff with color in the print. Most of the interior shots are this kind of, it's not a really heavy sepia, but it's there. It's got kind of an orange feel to it, although it kind of gets darker as the film goes on. And then anything that's outside in the daytime is this bright blue, which is really obnoxious. And fortunately, there's only 2 scenes like that. But there's this one of them is this really kind of longish scene where it's just superimposed trees, like winter leafless trees, and so just swirling around, and don't watch it high. I'm just saying. It'll have some sort of effect on you, I'm sure, but
being a silent film, I can't guarantee I would watch it.
Oh, no, I'm not. Yeah, no, I don't.
Color thing aside.
Right. Yeah, and because, like I said, there's no. I mean, there couldn't have been more than a dozen cards. They're all in French anyway, but none of them are dialogue. I don't, if I remember correctly. So there's not much happening. It's kind of just this guy playing Roderick Usher, walking around. He's painting the painting, and he's walking around. And he invites somebody to the house, and that guy starts just literally dragging him through the house. And it's very moody and very intense and doesn't really go anywhere. Then again, like I said, the short story itself is not that far off. This just adds some different story elements to it for whatever reason. I don't know. Kind of strange, but again. Also, the music in whatever print they have, the music was kind of terrible. It just kind of didn't fit anything. Which I understand is probably consistent with how they did music for silent films in the silent film era. Because there would just be an orchestra there playing stuff.
Right.
And it didn't necessarily have anything to do with the film. That didn't come until later. But it was... Some of the music was interesting, but not really in the context of the movie in any way. I prefer it if they try a little, even if they don't do well. I mean, at least don't play upbeat stuff when dude is just walking around the house looking morose, you know?
Yeah.
They kept playing Satin Doll.
Satin Doll might have been an improvement, honestly. But then again, I like me some Duke Ellington too. But anyway.
This was on Tubi.
This was on Tubi.
Looks like I've got one to look for.
You've been warned. It is interesting, as I say, but the overall effect I thought was, for me, was kind of negative.
Okay. That's fair enough.
That's what I got.
Alrighty, Les.
I watched a couple movies. One is available called Killer's Game with Dave Bautista, the wrestler, and I can't remember.
You said Ben Kingsley, didn't you?
Yes, thank you, Ben Kingsley, and also one of Doctor Who's travel companions.
You have to narrow that down a little more. If you want us to guess names.
One of the late seasons, she played opposite Matt.
Was it Clara?
No.
Or am I thinking? Who am I thinking?
The one that would talk to him. In fact, she had time travel abilities.
Oh, River?
Yes, thank you. It was a good film for what they were trying to go for. No awards, but I enjoyed it because it had humor, it had action. My wife loved it because it had action, so I knew I did okay. The other one I watched, my wife had no desire to know about. But I watched Death Race 2000.
I bet she didn't.
Ray or Race?
Race.
Okay.
75, I think.
Yes, sir.
Roger Corman.
Roger Corman produced, yeah. With David Carradine and
Sylvester Stallone is in it too.
Stallone, yes. Pre-Rocky.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So yeah, it's one of those that was cringy because of some of the wrecks and things they had, but it also had a story. So I loved it. I thought it was fun just to sit back and then watch this once again because it had been decades since I'd watched it. So yeah, let me in on this. It was fun. Not a thinking man's movie.
Oh, I don't know. It's got a little bit of satire peppered in there.
Oh, it's got some really good satire. Mary Warnoff is in it, and Paul Bartel. And those two were the stars of a movie called Eating Raoul,
Yeah.
which is definitely one to watch. So that's kind of what was on my plate this week.
Eating Raoul was on your plate?
That too.
Got a question for you.
I may have an answer.
How did you know Dave Bautista was in Killer's Game? How could you see him? He's invisible.
His name's in the credits. I mean, come on.
Liz gets.
I got it.
Well, okay. Thanks, I guess.
Right. Somebody want to fill in the rest of us?
Because if he's invisible, how did you know it was him? Because he's invisible.
Is he invisible in the movie?
Did you see him? Because he's invisible.
Or it's a Drax reference.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a reference. That's what.
Now there you go. Yeah, you started narrowing it down.
So I laughed for the wrong reason.
No, not necessarily. It's just that we didn't get the joke.
Yeah.
That's all. No big deal. It's okay. It's fine.
Drax talking about him being invisible, but he's staying right there where everybody can see him. It's like, you're not invisible, dude. Never mind.
Mm-hmm.
Some people out there got it.
So this is a recent movie, right, Les?
Yeah, it was done in 24.
Okay, cool.
So what were you thinking, Liz?
That's what I was thinking. You couldn't see him because he was invisible.
But did you get the reference?
No, I didn't. That's what I'm saying. I laughed for the wrong reason because he was invisible. It's like having a FaceTime with Stevie Wonder, kind of pointless.
Oh, Lord.
Wow. Damn.
Sometimes I wonder why. I do. I try to be cute, and fuck that.
Yeah.
Well, I tried.
She
very
tried to
trying
sell it.
I thought I got
too.
the joke.
She got a joke. She knew that it was a joke. She didn't get the
I
reference.
tickled myself.
I've never seen the movie, and so I didn't get the reference. It's cool.
Okay.
They can't all fly like eagles. Sometimes they drop like rocks, and that's okay too.
No, not The Rock. It was Dave Bautista.
Wow.
Wow.
And she's not going to let it go.
Let's move along.
Yeah.
Get that camera off me.
Smile. You're on candid camera. A lot of hodgepodge for me.
Hodgepodge is a good word.
Yeah. Watched a lot of different stuff on YouTube. I saw one special, which, I mean, I would recommend, but by the time this drops, it's not going to be on YouTube anymore. I mean, the channel owner said he was going to have to take it off, otherwise he was going to get a copyright strike. So it's not going to be there. But the show was called The Cancellation of Benny Hill.
Oh, okay.
And it's a little biographical, but for the most part, the focus was on the Benny Hill show, which was canceled late 84, 85, just shy of its 30th anniversary. It was on for 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not know that. But it spends a lot of time about how he developed his humor and all that, and how he got his show, and he did all the writing, apparently. That I did not know. But it talked about how controversial it is, and a show like that would not work right now. Because some of the jokes would just be so offensive.
True.
Particularly the handling of the women, which I knew that back then.
We knew that when we were little kids watching the show.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, you know, when they're talking about this, they're showing one of the sketches of them as firefighters, and here they are and all in suits and all that, and then here comes a female firefighter wearing a short skirt and high heels. It's like, okay, yeah. That's pretty obvious.
Yeah, it was pretty sexist.
Something I guess I had not seen episodes where this happened, but he did some blackface too.
Yeah, he did.
Wouldn't surprise me at all.
I mean, I guess in retrospect, I'm not surprised, but I had not seen him do it. When they started talking about racism, the first thing I thought of, and they talked about it, was him doing the Asian guy,
mm-hmm.
where he's doing these talk shows or interviews, and there's this whole screw up of communication because he's doing this accent.
Right, that stereotypical Asian accent.
Yes. And of course he's dressed up and he's squinting his eyes and all that kind of thing. You know, there's like the one clip they showed was it was like a political interview or discussion and all that. And he's talking about elections, but with the accent it comes out erections.
Mm-hmm. Very highbrow humor, Benny Hill was,
yes,
as I recall.
Well, and the thing is, you know, I mean, he was funny. A lot of the other stuff didn't have that kind of stuff, and it was funny.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even that was funny, but you know, you laugh at it and go, "That I shouldn't be laughing at it."
That's terrible. But you're laughing.
It's terrible, but you're laughing anyway.
Because honestly, when we're watching it, we're 12 years old, and they're talking about erections, for crying out loud. I mean, come on. Of course you're laughing.
Right. But it was kind of an interesting little show. I did not realize he died so soon after the show had been canceled. It was canceled in 85, and he died like in 89, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounded like he got greenlit for a new show.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Apparently he was going to do a new show, which and he was so young. He was like in his 60s. So I mean, he could have kept on going for a while. Yeah, apparently he just had a heart attack. He was at his flat. I think he was sitting in a recliner or laying on the sofa watching TV, and he just had a heart attack and died.
Yikes.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
But it was funny. It's funny to watch because, you know, he wrote all the music, so the songs he was singing, he wrote all of that, and I had those things were hit or miss for me because there was times where I couldn't understand what the hell he was saying.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's other times I was like, oh, okay, that's funny. That was good. So it was kind of interesting. But they also had like three, I don't know if they were young comedians or whatever, but they were there and they were showing them clips and all that. And they're like, some of us like, oh yeah, that was funny, that was really good. And then others was like, oh god, that's horrible. Talk about the sexism or racism and that kind of stuff. So.
Yep.
But it's good that it's a series now that most anybody can watch.
Right.
And it still has power.
Yeah.
Right. There's some funny stuff in there. I mean, straight up, there really is.
And I think it was some of the controversy that caused it to be canceled because they said the final episode had more than 9 million viewers.
Wow.
Right, and this is in England.
And yeah, this is in England.
This is not a huge country.
Yeah. Well, and they talk about how well he did internationally.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was very popular over here.
Yes. That's how we know about him.
Matter of fact, they talk about it being very big in like the hip hop
culture.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it was an interesting watch. Like I said, I would recommend it, but it's not going to be on there. It's not going to be on there by the time this thing drops because he's going to remove it due to saving his ass from a copyright strike.
Well, the upside is that if he's under threat of a copyright strike, then maybe there's a legitimate way to find it out there.
Yeah,
that's true.
So maybe Google it up a little bit.
Yeah, it's called The Cancellation of Benny Hill, and it is a funny watch.
Cool. Yeah.
I definitely loved. They showed most of one skit where they were parodying. It was a popular show in England of a couple that was kind of doing a cooking show, and he was dressed up as the wife. So he was doing, he's doing doing the cooking and all that. Meanwhile, the quote unquote husband is getting drunk off all the wine and stuff that's being used as the ingredients.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that. Need to look that one up too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And the thing I hadn't thought about until seeing this. I mean, yeah, we think about him being a comedian and all that, but he wasn't half bad as a straight man. The other actors are doing something crazy, then he looks at the camera with that stare of like, what?
Right, that exasperated look of his.
Yes. Yeah. So he was pretty good doing the straight man stuff too. So
Yep. He spread it around quite a bit with his crew that he had.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. let's go ahead and take a break, and then we'll get into this week's discussion. Welcome back. If you've been listening to the last couple weeks, you realize we're in our Star Wars month. I hope you really enjoyed last week's, because I don't expect all of us to be giving glowing reviews for what we're going to be discussing today. Today we'll be discussing the 10th anniversary of The Force Awakens, Episode VII, the first Star Wars under the Disney banner. So, let's go ahead and get into The Force Awakens.
Do we have to?
Yeah. I would say this was my least favorite, but
then they made two more.
Yeah. They did in there. They were like, but wait, there's more. I don't know. I didn't care for this one. I didn't like the hype surrounded around it. I didn't like the ugly comments that were being made around it. I didn't like none of it. The story I would have liked better, which is where I thought they were going for the first probably 45 minutes. I would have liked to have seen John Boyega as the Jedi. And I really thought that's where they were headed, and then they popped out with Rey, and it was like, wait, what? I mean, I don't know. I don't know if there's some kind of...
We all know that Jedi come from desert planets. Jesus.
Yeah, they're all slaves and bad lives and...
Well, I mean...
Junk dealers.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the movie. I mean, the posters. All the promotional posters had him with the lightsaber.
Yeah. I really thought
so that was the impression we were given. I get that.
Oh,
And that would have been an awesome redemption story. You know?
Stormtrooper makes good.
Yeah, pretty much. You know, he went from a mindless nobody to actually caring. And, I mean, even though they didn't make him the Jedi, look at everything he did during the movies. I mean, he, even behind the scenes, was carrying it, you know. I really liked him, and what was the girl they had a cow over? Rose. Yes. I don't know if she was in the first one or not.
She wasn't.
Absolutely, them two together, that would have been a good story. I was more interested in them than the little, I shouldn't say little, than the woman they popped out in front of us and was kind of like, here she is, you gotta like her. She's the first Lady Jedi.
I mean, except for all the others that came before
Yeah.
her, you know.
Exactly. And not only that, I think Princess Leia would have a little something to say about that, but, you know. And I get it. Everybody wants to have a role model, and everybody wants to have someone to look up to. But they were acting like this is the first time that we had that with Star Wars. And it was kind of like, I was a little girl that grew up watching Star Wars, and my hero was Princess Leia. I wore cinnamon buns on my head. I mean, you know, that was...
Oh.
So it
Sounds,
guys.
Yeah.
sounds yummy.
The ants
Right.
were a problem, I'm just saying.
Oh, yeah. You know. But it was kind of like, you know, we had that. She may not have been like the Jedi, but they were twins.
She was a badass anyway.
Yeah, she was. She fucking kicked ass in a metal bikini. I mean, come on, guys.
She stood toe-to-toe with Darth Vader, and she did not back down.
Was not scared
Come on.
one bit. Yep.
Yeah.
So, I mean, although, that being said, I don't like what they did with Leia in these either. like I said, it may not be in the first one, but the flying through space, it was like you didn't need to have her do that for us to accept that she was a Jedi. Like I said, they were twins. They both came from Vader. They shared that, you know. So, I don't know. Like I said, I think people got hyped for the wrong reasons on this, and they really let a good story fall to the side. They should have went with John Boyega. What was his name in the movie?
Finn.
They should have went with him. I liked him.
How did we get to Rey and Finn, or not Finn, but Rey and Kylo being Jedi? It's something that's bothered me. You know, if we're going by our predecessors, then who are the predecessors of those two to have the power? And obviously Kylo Ren had power.
Well, he came from Vader's bloodline. That's just where I always assumed he got it from, was from his granddad.
And he was at least partly trained by Luke.
By Luke, yeah.
I mean, he's Leia's son, so that's where...
Yeah. See, like I said, though, I just always thought, I don't know if it's canon or whatever, but once it was revealed that Vader was their dad, I just always accepted Princess Leia as a Jedi, too. Just because Vader was and Luke was, it only made sense for her to be one, too. She came from that bloodline, you know? So
for me, more specifically, it didn't make sense for her not to be one.
Right.
I mean, she just kind of, even throughout all the novels, she just kind of didn't want to. Which seemed weird, because why the hell wouldn't she?
But
she never sought power or anything, but she certainly handled it well. And, you would think that she would embrace that at least to some extent, but I was always a little disappointed that she never did.
Yeah. See, I saw her Jedi powers being more like her mom's. She was very diplomatic. She led the rebellion. She, even when they were still calling her princess, she was leading the rebellion and had been captured. And, I kind of saw her role as more as just being kick-ass militaristic, like not paperwork, but you know what I mean, more in the control of who's going where and what's going on. And, that's where her power was. Almost superpower, if you will. And I think Luke put his more into the fighting and the battle and the pilot, and so they both were using the Force, but in different ways. His was more brawn and her was more brain, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not answering my question.
Of where Kylo got his from his mom and his grandma, or not his grandma, his grandpa. I think that's.
So what about Rey? Is I think where he's going.
Rey, I don't know. I really, yeah.
Well, that's been part of the problem with the issue people have had with the character from the get-go.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, but if the Force picks you, what made her so special?
Well, to me, it's not like a Green Lantern getting a ring. It's you're not chosen.
Well, kinda. Isn't that what they told her, though? That the Force kind of picked her, and that she had to learn how to channel it. So it was kind of like, huh? Which is why I thought Finn could do it, because if it's going to pick people.
It's, assuming that J.J. Abrams, who basically did the 7 and 9, was following what Lucas had laid down. If Rey is the daughter of a clone of Palpatine, then the midichlorians in her system, there were enough. It was enough to where she could be able to use the Force.
Hmm.
And
So
obviously,
she got her Palpatine.
She's a granddaughter.
That's the strong implication. Yes.
Yes.
Hmm.
That one of Palpatine's clones got married and had a kid, and that kid was Rey. That's what we learned in Rise of Skywalker.
Hmm.
So she is the granddaughter of Palpatine. So you had the granddaughter of Palpatine fighting the grandson of Vader.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't like it.
I'm not saying you have to like it.
Right. Nobody's asking you to like it.
Right.
A lot of people didn't like it. That's
A
part
lot
of the problem.
people like it.
And I really didn't like when she called herself a Skywalker. Mm-mm. You're not. I mean, you're not. You met Luke for a couple of days on an island. You were gone away from Leia most of the time, training. So how are all of a sudden you family because you kissed your brother then, I guess? I mean, there we go again.
You're just not going to let that go, are you?
Well, once again, one of the things that's not really made clear is there is a considerable time difference between Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. I think it's anywhere between 5 to 10 years.
Mm.
So there's a long period of time. So I mean, so if we take that as true, then she's had, because Leia was training her. Leia was overseeing some of her training. So now.
Yeah. See, Leia didn't have the training that she needed to do some of the things she did. Luke would have.
Well, okay. Keep in mind that also there's a 30-year gap between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. We don't really know what training Leia had.
Yeah, true.
I mean, they kind of implied a little bit because they did a flashback of her trying to learn to use her lightsaber. But yeah, but to the extent of what she learned from Luke, we don't know.
Yeah.
So
I don't like how they did Luke in this either.
Why?
He was a fighter. I mean, bad stuff happened and everything else, and I can understand kind of brooding about it for a little while, but Luke would have gotten over it. Luke would have went on to help fight, not sectioned himself off at the edge of the world where nobody could find him.
20-year-old Luke would have done those things. 60-year-old Luke might be different.
But that's what the Force put in him, though, right? I mean, if he gets all this his fighting and stuff from the Force, they had told us too much of him being strong-willed and a fighter, and to see him that broken down and beaten, it was like, wow, just kick my hero in the teeth, why don't you? I mean, to me, it was just sad. I think they could have done that a little better. He was the last Jedi.
Well,
I mean, Palpatine had a baby, but
I mean, you could say this. You could say the same thing about Obi-Wan. He lost all of his friends. He lost all his mentors. The next generation were killed. So what does he do? He goes into hiding. Yeah, partially to protect Luke, but he goes into hiding to change his name and basically forgo his Force abilities and all that. And even to the point, as you've seen in the show, that he hid his lightsaber.
Yeah.
He buried his lightsaber.
in the middle of the desert. I kind of saw what he did as a little different though. I mean, of course, Jedi have always been hunted, but during this time, it was like they were relentless. I mean, they were slaughtering everybody left and right that they could get a hold of, to where if he would have died, he wouldn't have been useful later. If, he didn't know there was going to be a later, but I kind of understand him kind of keeping, the down low a little bit more than Luke. Not that they've ever had the upper hand against the Empire, but they kind of did. There was more of them. There was more fighters. There was more planets set up where they could, be in numbers and be safe and everything else. Right after all that happened with Kenobi, they didn't. They were still setting up that network to make everyone safe, and he should have helped with that, which they implied that after all those events happened, he did. But I kind of saw that different than Luke. Just, I'm done. Oh well, go to hell. Throw my lightsaber in the middle of the ocean. I kind of saw that different than what Luke did. It made more sense for Kenobi to hide than Luke. Considering, like I said, they made such a big deal about him being the last one and him being the chosen one,
But he wasn't the last one.
Well, I guess Rey was.
No, when it was announced that he was the last one, if you're talking Luke, they said, Kenobi said, no, there is another. And that is Leia.
Leia.
Yep. But for some reason, she wasn't the chosen one.
Well, Anakin was chosen.
It's real fuzzy on who the chosen one was.
Right.
There's a whole lot of chosen one talk going on, and nobody's really sure what the hell any of it meant.
Yeah.
Even as they're saying it, they don't know what it really means. They're saying what they hope it means. Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan hoped Anakin was the chosen one. Later on, they hoped Luke was the chosen one. And then
Which
eventually they hoped Rey was the chosen one. But whatever. Yeah. I mean, what does that mean? It still doesn't mean anything to anybody.
It means
really.
You can move rocks and
it's all about hope.
And starfighters. Yeah. I don't know. I didn't buy her.
Prophecy is almost always about hope.
Yeah.
And not much else.
Yep. Not love or friends or any of that.
Not to make it too philosophical, but usually the chosen one is someone's hopes and dreams pinned on something else that they can't control because their life is so terrible. So they've got to believe that there's something else that's better.
Something else out there. Yep.
That said, The Force Awakens was the last Star Wars movie that I have ever seen. I was not impressed. I thought there was some interesting character possibilities. There were some moments that worked fairly well in the movie. I thought it was a little too reminiscent of A New Hope. I thought they were trying a little too hard to sell it like A New Hope, and it didn't work. And I thought, to be honest, I straight up blame the directing. I think that J.J. Abrams is highly overrated as a director. I have really never seen a movie from him that I have liked. And I didn't. This movie did not catch my interest in the story at all, and so I just walked away. I watched it once and I was done. It was simply not interesting enough.
Yeah.
And it certainly wasn't exciting enough. And I didn't like the bad guys any more than I had liked any other bad guys. There was nothing interesting there. The fact that the bad guy here had done some heinous shit, okay, so what? That's been a recurring theme in all of these movies. Show me something interesting.
Yeah.
Which they didn't do.
And it's funny how much people talk about Luke being whiny. Kylo had fucking temper tantrums.
Mm-hmm.
Like a 2-year-old.
He did.
Oh, they escaped? Okay, well, let me take out my lightsaber and destroy this control panel. Okay. Do you feel better now?
Right. Is that supposed to inspire fear? Or respect? Because it sure as hell doesn't inspire either one of those things. I mean, yeah, I'm afraid that this asshole's going to swing that lightsaber a little too close to my head, but otherwise, he's just an asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was nothing interesting about the character.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Other than whose kid he was.
He was clearly going to destroy himself anyway, so all you have to do is back away and let him.
Yeah. He wasn't an interesting or compelling character.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're with like Vader. Vader was just scary.
He was.
Vader was scary, and then you start hearing the backstory. Then he becomes interesting, whether you agree with everything that happened and all that. It was still interesting. He's one of the few villains that I kind of enjoy seeing. Okay, this is what led up to him being this. For the most part, on the villains, I don't really want to know. You know, just he's a bad guy. I'm supposed to hate him. I'm not supposed to feel sorry for him. Vader's different.
Yep. Well,
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I agree with you. Vader was different.
Well, and Vader was better written, strangely
Mm-hmm.
enough. I mean,
Right.
that seems weird to say, but Vader
Well,
was menacing.
Yes.
Kylo is a toddler
Yes.
with godlike powers.
Yep.
Yeah. Vader was a true supervillain. Kylo Ren was Q on a bad day. That's it. He was Trelane.
Yeah,
Probably
I was about to say,
probably
he's more
better.
like Trelane. Yeah.
He was Trelane. He was a child doing naughty things and throwing a tantrum.
Mm-hmm.
As a parent, I don't find that interesting.
Mm-hmm. I would have won.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the whole forced romantic thing right at the end, too, was kind of like, really? Really? I would have seen more of a romance between her and Finn than her and Kylo.
Well, the thing there is, and they did a really not a good job explaining, because I actually had to research into it because I had never heard of it. They have what they call as a dyad. There's like a connection, which explains why they were able to talk to each other in Last Jedi and continue that in Rise of Skywalker. So there's like a force connection between the two of them that's different from others.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, the romance, what little there was, does seem forced. But after hearing about that, reading about that, I'm going to go, okay, I guess. You know, it would have been nice if it had been explained a little bit better than that, but okay. So, yeah.
Mm.
Let me ask this.
Okay.
What really was the reason for Pope Dameron?
I don't know. He was another one they built up and totally underused him.
True.
I mean, he was the hotshot. He was the new hotshot pilot for sure. pulled Finn out of the Empire, out of the clutches of the Empire.
True.
Yeah.
So
He was essentially supposed to be the Han Solo of this thing.
Yeah, I agree.
The good looking with a little bit of a mouth and hotshot pilot.
a dashing, risk-taking pilot.
Yeah.
A little Luke in there because they gave him a droid.
Maybe a little.
Yeah, I think he's another one they should have used a little bit more.
Is he even in the third one or not?
Yeah.
Very little though, right?
Yeah. I mean, they're all these are raised movies.
Yeah.
So, the balance story wise is lopsided. I will give you that. Where, like last week we were talking about Empire Strikes Back, where there's pretty good balance between Luke being on Dagobah being trained, meanwhile Han and Leia are over here trying to escape Empire's clutches. It was still a relatively good balance.
Yeah.
And we don't get that in the sequel trilogy. I will yeah, that's definitely true. It is Rey's story for the most part.
Okay. Now the process that Mike was talking about, that this was another version of Episode 4, to me is true, and it was followed by Episodes 5 and 6 to get to the end of the 9 run.
Well, I mean that is true too, but I mean it's kind of carrying what Luke has set down. I mean, look at A New Hope and then look at Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
Look at Empire Strikes Back and then look at Attack of the Clones. Right down to the whole Sith Lord trying to recruit a Jedi and giving them information that they don't believe is true, but it's true. Instead of it being "I'm your father," it's "Hey, there's a Sith Lord that's running the Senate."
Yeah.
And then Jedi, and then Attack of Clone, Revenge of the Sith. We talked about this here a couple weeks ago. Literally, the opening of Revenge of the Sith is parallels the end of Jedi. You've got Palpatine sitting in his chair, watching these guys have a lightsaber duel, and trying to convince one to kill the other and take their place. So that's still kind of, the parallels are still kind of there, but maybe not done as well. So that's when I hear people talk about Episode 7 being a repeat of Episode 4, I get that, but we kind of saw that also with Phantom Menace, and we also see that with Return of the Jedi too.
I agree.
I think it was a little more on the nose with The Force Awakens because you had the Star Killer thing and all of that.
I'm not disagreeing with that. But the use of desert planets in this franchise is lopsided.
Bordering on ridiculous.
Yes.
I do like the water planets, though. Those are pretty cool. Or the water moons? Is that what they're calling them? Moon planets?
I forgot what that planet was called. Where they got the clones. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Camino.
Camino. Thank you.
Bring your rubber underpants.
Yeah.
It rains a lot.
A lot. But it was pretty cool looking, though.
Mm-hmm.
They had one of those in Kenobi, too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so is there anything positive from The Force Awakens? Was there anything that you did like?
I liked Finn. I liked the new droid.
BB-8?
BB-8, yeah.
I don't know that there was any specific character that I didn't like. I mean, obviously, all the bad guys are bad, but I mean, they're the bad guys. They're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
I liked Poe relatively well. I thought Finn was a little whiny, but otherwise he was fine. I mean, Rey when we didn't know anything about Rey was a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
Which was the case in The Force Awakens, I thought, because I didn't learn any of that other shit until later. I liked what we saw of Leia. Getting to see Leia again was cool. I'm not sure I liked seeing Han again as much.
I really don't think he wanted to do this movie.
No, he didn't.
He absolutely didn't. And they
I
managed
think
to put him in it quite a bit for someone
Yeah.
who didn't want to be in it, which I thought was unfair. Given his lifestyle, there's no reason for him to be in this movie. He just died 10 years ago in an accident of some sort, or he pissed off the wrong guy 10 years ago and got killed.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't need to have all the drama that they injected into this so
Yeah.
artificially.
I think Kylo needed that moment of no turning back, which was when he killed his dad. But I think they could have achieved that in some other way.
Yeah.
Where you kind of knew what was going to happen, That's why I said I really don't think Harrison Ford wanted to do this.
Oh, I think he said point blank he didn't want to do this.
Yeah.
And the only way he would do it is if they killed him.
He's been on record in interviews.
Has he?
I remember one with Barbara Walters. She asked him, would you ever play Han Solo again? He said, no, I don't think so. She said, well, what about Indiana Jones? He said, in a heartbeat.
Well,
why? Because Indiana Jones is a more interesting character.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, when you give a certain amount of your life to a project, and you feel like you've done your best, and you've really given it your all, sometimes they're just done with it. I've done what I can do with that. I've done what I felt I can do with that.
He didn't want Han to survive Jedi. Return of the Jedi. He didn't want Han to survive Empire.
Yeah.
I've learned this over in recent years that he only signed to do 2 movies, where Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher were signed to 3. That's the reason why Billy Williams was added.
Ah.
He was insurance in case they couldn't bring Harrison back.
Which explains why he's wearing Han's clothes at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not well, but it explains it.
Yeah.
So if they couldn't bring him, if he couldn't bring him back for Return of the Jedi, then Lando would have been a more prominent character, or about as prominent as Han was. Which boy, that would have changed the movie considerably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then even then, it sounded like Harrison was lobbying to where Han was flying the Falcon during the attack, and he didn't get out in time. So the Falcon was blown up when the Death Star blew up. And George's like, no, we need to have a happy ending.
He's like, that is.
Hey, happy
Well,
for
it was
who?
happy for him.
For him, yeah.
So, yeah.
Hmm.
So, yeah, when they approached him to do Force Awakens, it had to be on the condition that they would kill off the character. Because, oh my, I don't know, y'all probably don't remember this, but I remember making the observation then how much Harrison Ford did to promote this film. He did a ton. Seemed like more than he's ever done for any other Star Wars films. And I think part of it was, he got paid for it, but it was like, also, hey, I'm done with this. When this is done, I'm walking away.
Finally over.
I'm walking away. I don't have to answer that question ever again because the character stuff. Although we did see him in Last Jedi, but that's for a different reason. I mean, not Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
Saw him in a bit. Because that was actually supposed to be Leia. That was supposed to be Leia talking to Kylo. And since we had lost Carrie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which was kind of weird watching this after.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, it to me, and it's kind of crazy, and I'm granted we're back, we're off on movie again, but still, they all kind of like you said before, they kind of come together. Mm-hmm. It made sense that Kylo had that quote unquote talk with his father, because that was the point that he stopped being Ben Solo and was Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
And then here, now he's having that similar talk, and he goes from Kylo Ren to Ben Solo. He comes back. It's a nice little bookshelf type thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would love to have seen Leia have that talk. But I would love to have seen Leia more in the movie. But we obviously couldn't.
Didn't they splice a lot of the last movie up with things that she had already done and recorded? And
well, some of the footage that's in Rise of Skywalker is stuff that was taken from that was not used from The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it was, whatever they did, like the flashback sequence, that was actually Billy, which is her daughter, Billie Piper. They just CGI'd Carrie's face for what little you saw of it.
Yeah.
But that was actually her daughter, Billy. And then that was it. The rest of it was just used footage. Or not used footage. It was cut footage.
Billy Lord.
Billy Lord. Well, I don't know where I got Billie Piper from. Damn it. Billie Piper.
I knew what you was talking about, though.
Billy Lord.
Billie Piper was on Doctor Who?
Doctor Who, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. That's where I got it on, except, Billy Lord. Thank you.
Sure.
So, I mean, am I big fans of these movies? No. But hell, I didn't think we were going to get them. I really didn't.
Yeah.
I was going to mention this when we talked about Revenge of the Sith. When I was in the theaters watching it the first time, that's actually the only time I watched it in the theater, when the credits started rolling, I actually shedded tears because I thought this was the last Star Wars film ever. Because essentially the story's been told. It takes Lucas essentially 10 years to do these films. He's not getting any younger. And it's going to take another 10 to do these other films. And we don't know when he's actually going to start working on them. So I thought we were done. Because we're talking about, what, 2005?
Mm-hmm.
2005, because it was the 20th anniversary. So 2005. I thought, like, we're not gonna get episodes 7, 8, 9. Just be grateful we got 1 through 6. And the franchise will live through the books and comics and games and whatever else they decide to do. So, so when this came along, I was like, wow, okay, we're actually going to possibly see the end of this. And then Disney got involved, and then and so.
And now we're like, God, we're never going to see the end of this. I'm kidding.
Well, they keep making series.
Yeah, now the series have been better than the movies have.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the Star Wars story's been told with the Luke and Leia. That's been told. We've done it frontwards, we've done it backwards, we've all in between. That story's been told. And so I think when we see things like Andor and The Mandalorian and that kind of stuff that shoot off in the universe, but not that story, they're doing really well because you have too much laid down for the Star Wars story. There's nowhere to go. You've built a history, you've put it not only in print but in film, and you can't change that now.
Well, Mike said it before. I mean, there's more to the Star Wars universe than the Skywalker saga.
Yep, there sure is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the council was made up of a lot of people, not just Jedi.
Well, you don't have to focus on Jedi.
Yep.
Focus on the regular people.
So much more in that council. Yep.
Lucas was going to do a TV show called The Underworld. So obviously it was going to focus on the criminal element and probably bounty hunters and all that type of stuff. He had a shit ton of scripts done. Matter of fact, I just saw here within the last few weeks or so part of an interview, I think it was with Jon Favreau. And apparently it was Lucas' intention was to finance it and film all the episodes, so do like all 50 or so, and then turn around and offer them to the network to air them, but on the condition that they can't be altered. These are mine. You can't have any decision or input on what's on these shows. Which that would have been interesting.
That would have been. Now, I'm curious to see more out of the universe for sure. I think Star Wars weekend just passed and they announced a lot, and I don't know. I think maybe that Ryan Gosling of all people. I never thought I'd see him in the Star Wars universe, but I think they've said the same thing. This will be set in that universe, but will have nothing to do with Star Wars. Or
the Skywalker.
Yeah, the Skywalkers. And I think that'll be interesting. I'm kind of curious about that.
Isn't Andor coming back soon too?
I think season 2 just started.
Yeah, if it hadn't just started, it will too by this episode drops. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of like spoilers and stuff on it, so I just assumed it was out already.
Yeah, it's pretty close. And then after this season, that's it, because it's supposed to be leading up to the events of Rogue One.
Mm. And I don't think we're going to get any more Mandalorian. I think they're just going to do the movie, and that's how they've decided that. Which sucks. I hate that they did that to that show, but it is what it is. Yep.
We'll see. There may be more seasons. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Pedro's too big now to do it.
Mm-hmm. But okay, he's kept a mask on all but twice. So change him to someone else, you know.
I hear Liam Hemsworth is pretty good.
The series killer guy. Yeah. I think with them making a big deal of us not seeing him, it wouldn't be a big deal to change him. Get someone kind of similar looking, and you're good to go.
I mean, similar body build.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he did take it off once there, so.
Yeah,
he took it all off?
He took his helmet off.
Oh, his helmet. Okay, never mind.
Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, if that's because it was written that way. You don't write that, hey, he takes the helmet off, then.
I had heard that he took the helmet off, though, because he was getting tired of being paid as a voice actor. Which, hey, makes sense. You know, why would that, and it was so popular and everything else, and there was no face. Which we didn't need a face. We had the face, and his name was Grogu. That was the face.
I mean, she's not wrong.
Yep, that's what pulled everybody in. And seeing, here's another thing about Star Wars that I kind of miss. I miss the puppets. It seemed like in the first one, especially where they were in Tatooine and the whole band and just the whole bar. I mean, that was freaking awesome. Then we had the Ewoks. We had, I mean, a lot of people don't like them, but we had Jar Jar. I mean, we had a lot of like puppets and stuff. And it seemed like with the prequels,
Jar Jar wasn't a puppet.
Jar Jar was CGI, but okay.
Yeah, you know, I miss that kind of weird looking stuff in there like that. That kind of made Star Wars kind of interesting. And I don't know, but I don't think I would have been as interested in Star Wars as a kid had it not had some of that stuff in there. That's kind of what it was like. Wow, you know, this is pretty cool. And I was all into, you know, Jim Henson and everything else. So it just kind of all made sense, you know. Which I was watching a thing on, someone had an original Yoda. And although Henson didn't do that, he did have a hand in making Yoda with his workshop.
Didn't have a hand.
But he said that was back in the day when you could collaborate with somebody and not demand like, oh, I want my name in your film kind of thing. It was just kind of a, hey, we're trying to get this to do this. What do you suggest? And he did. He offered all of his expertise that he had on Muppets at the time, you know, which is pretty cool.
You know, like Frank Oz.
Yeah.
He's the guy who did Yoda. He worked with Henson for years.
Yep. And there was a guy in Kenobi. It was the when they made it to the Oh, the planet, the cargo planet kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
The driver of that guy sounded exactly like Kermit the Frog. Exactly like him. I mean, I know it's not because, of course,
Henson's been gone a long time.
a long time. But that guy definitely sounded like Kermit the Frog.
But I mean,
Colonel.
hell, who doesn't do a Kermit the Frog impersonation, really?
Right.
Hi ho, Kermit the Frog here.
Kermit the Frog here.
Hail the Empire. So, yeah,
Not me.
that was pretty cool.
He's just being modest. He does the best Kermit voice of all of us.
He does. He's under NDA, though.
Wow. Ouch.
So,
Yeah, so far I'd say the 4th, 5th, and 6th. Best one so far.
Well, that was really a standalone story. And that's what why I enjoyed it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, don't take our word for it. What if you hadn't watched it and you're interested in watching it? Go ahead and see The Force Awakens. You may enjoy it, you may not, but at least see it once.
Yeah. At least once.
Make up your own mind.
I say that, but every time it's on TV, I don't change the channel. So
I believe the kids call that hate watching, but okay.
yeah, praise watching.
It's the end thing.
It's the hip new trend.
Well, on that note, we are going to go ahead and take a quick break and be back with Geek News for You. Welcome back. It is time for Geek News for You. In this segment, we bring a couple news items to the table for discussion. And this week, it is Les and myself. And Les, would you go first, please, sir?
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome, sir.
What I bring to the table is the fact that Kickstarter has suspended the new publication of Megaton Man by Don Simpson.
Simpson, eh?
Simpson. Flanders. According to this, there's an Iranian artist named Milo Trent that contributed to this book. And in this, they have a little problem with the idea of using someone from that area as an artist. Now, Trent has done books with Don Simpson, such as 1963, which is what I want to say that was a X-Men book. Does that sound right?
63. I think that was like an Image miniseries that was kind of a homage to early Marvel.
Okay.
If I'm thinking right, I may be wrong.
The thing is, the new book is supposed to be over 200 pages, and I would like to find this because this was a character I thought had great chances So, being a spoof like it is, it just, to me, it just, at that time, it was relevant. Of course, we've seen other spoofs before, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which was a spoof of the X-Men. And it just, this one was, to me, was going to be something to collect because it has all the issues of Megaton Man plus pieces from various artists and writers. I hope that it gets back online because they do have quite a big following, including several artists and writers. So,
And the only problem they have with him is he's Iranian.
I believe so. No one said anything when he did 1963, but for some reason, Kickstarter has a slight problem with it.
That's kind of weird.
Yeah. And I have met Don Simpson at one of the conventions. It's kind of cool because I was sitting there talking to him and he goes, "Hey, can you be here for a few minutes? I got to go to the restroom." I said, "Sure." and he came back and he said, "Thanks." He starts giving me stuff. "Here, take this, take this, take this." I bet I walked out with $40 worth of stuff.
Wow.
He to me he was funny. He was kind. So yeah, to me this was quite the shock.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we're not even at war or anything with Iran, so that's kind of crazy, right?
Well, we still have a little bit of problem.
Yeah.
But,
I guess I could understand if it was like Israel or Palestine, but
well,
not saying any of it's right, but yeah.
According to word, Iran has a tendency to give arms and fund little armies against Israel. So the U.S. is not too kind about it, not too happy.
Yeah.
And for the record, I was right. 1963 was the miniseries that was done by Image. That was an
homage.
Homage to Silver Age.
Okay.
So it was done. It was done in 1993.
Okay. Yeah.
So.
Wow.
It was good. I remember getting it.
Yeah.
It was fun to kind of read that, especially being in the early 90s when you had all the 90s heroes. It was a different take. So.
Weird.
Alrighty. Guess what? We've got another public domain character that Disney has dealt with that's gonna go the horror route. This time is Aladdin. It was announced that starting next month they'll be filming a film titled Aladdin the Monkey's Paw.
Based on the short story?
Well, here's the synopsis, and take it for what it's worth. A modern-day Aladdin inherits an ancient monkey's paw believed to grant wishes. only to discover that every desire comes at a soul-crushing price. As those around him fall victim to its curse, he must confront a growing evil and the demonic force that feeds on every wish made. And like, why is it a monkey's paw when it's supposed to be a lamp?
Also, why is it Aladdin when it could just be some guy?
Yeah.
Hey, well,
I mean, because the story in and of itself doesn't sound terrible,
no,
but why does it have to be Aladdin?
they're capitalizing on the name. Just like why should there be a RoboCop remake when it could be called something else and probably be a little bit more accepted? They're capitalizing on the name and the nostalgia and all that. I mean, the article here talks about it being a remake, and it's like, it's not a remake. That's not. I hadn't heard or seen any version of Aladdin that involves a monkey's paw.
A monkey, but not a monkey's paw.
A monkey's, but not a monkey's paw. So, anyway.
Abu?
I hate that they do this. I hate that they do this.
I just think there's no point.
I don't. Yeah. Well, and that was like the whole Mickey Mouse thing. I don't get it. Mickey Mouse is
Well, just any of them. I mean, this year it's Popeye.
But Popeye hasn't had any like new cartoons or anything made with Popeye. Mickey Mouse has never been out of circulation. He's still going. He's a brand. He's not a character anymore. He's a brand. So I can understand if something isn't used and it falls off into fair trade, but I think if you're still using that property and it identifies who you are, it shouldn't fall into fair use like that. That's not fair,
Fair.
It's not.
Well, it is fair. It's fair use.
But I don't know. Now, like Alice in Wonderland wasn't Disney's. It wasn't. They of course they did it after the book, and the book is what fell off into fair use. Mickey Mouse was theirs. They designed him, they made him, and they still use him. And you can't walk into a store without seeing them at least on 100 things, Well,
but the thing is the Mickey Mouse that you're talking about and the Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse, it's not the same character.
But Steamboat Willie still opens a lot of Disney movies. They start off with him in the little steamboat there, whistling and doing his little captain circle thing, whatever that's called.
But it's not copyrighted.
But see, it should be. It's still being used by Disney.
That's not your decision. That's up to Disney. Disney chose not to do that, so now it's fair use.
That's
or
crazy.
whatever the real term is, public domain.
It's public domain.
Public domain, yeah.
And you talk about that, and then you talk about the other animated films that they've already started ripping and doing horror films. Those weren't Disney's either.
Yeah.
Winnie the Pooh wasn't Disney's. They have a Disney version.
Yeah.
There's the E.E. Cummings version, and that's what they're taking advantage of.
And I don't think that's right.
Cinderella's the same thing. Snow White's going to be the same thing.
It's a predatory thing.
It is.
And it's shitty.
And I'm sorry with people nowadays shitting on AI and they're ripping off artists. Is this not the same thing? You're ripping artists off. You didn't come up with that property. You didn't come up with that ideal. So is it not the same as ripping that artist off?
It's an interesting argument.
Well, I mean, you can go both ways because, say, yeah, you're ripping them off, but then again, it's fair use. It's available to be used.
Right. There's nothing legally stopping them from doing it. That's the problem.
That's the problem. Yeah.
And the fact
Yeah.
that they're taking advantage of something that high a profile, that's why I use the word predatory.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, it sucks. Like I said, I
just-
don't have respect for people who are doing that, because,
Yeah.
and especially when the whole point of doing it is to shit on somebody's childhood. That's it. That's the whole reason they're doing this. Oh, let's take something fun and cute and now cover it in blood, because, yeah, that's how I want to see Winnie the Pooh, you know.
Sounds
Well-
good to me.
Well, well, I understand what you're saying, but you can also choose not to acknowledge it and see it.
Yeah, which I really
Then-
I haven't
then-
seen any
then-
of these.
then your childhood's not ruined.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
That
it's-
was like the Winnie the Pooh one, though, that somebody accidentally stuck on a movie for their like third grade class or something and traumatized these kids. There's no point in that. There should have never been able to make that kind of mistake, you know? Because Winnie the Pooh should never be a horror movie. And that's coming from a horror fan. I mean, you know, I'll watch any way you can slice and dice somebody, but I draw the line at Winnie the Pooh.
Well, okay, and that's fine. You draw that line. Not
Yeah.
everybody else is going to do that, and
Yeah,
you can't
well,
control that. So,
$6.
well, sure. I'm not arguing with that part
Love
for
you
sure.
guys. But yeah,
I'm not arguing with you at all on that one. But
I just don't agree with it. I think there could be other ways to be creative.
right,
Without shitting on a
where I would agree
franchise.
with you is that it is not creative at all to do that.
Mm-mm.
Not in any way, and
Mm-mm.
I doubt very much that it's entertaining for more than a very small group of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dr.
Other than
Orthula didn't
sticking
seem
it
like
to the mouse, you know. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So. All right. Any special shout-outs or mentions this week?
Not me.
Nothing here, thanks.
Okay, we'll move on to our regular shout-outs. First of all, I want to thank Pulp Coast Culture for allowing us to be part of a great little podcast network. Recommend that you check them out. There'll be a link in the show notes. Also want you to check out the fine men and women who are kind enough to spread the word of fellowship on Twitter by retweeting our links. And they are the Pottern family. The best way to check them out is to do a search, hashtag Pottern family, all one word. Scroll through, and whatever catches your attention, by all means, download that episode, and we hope you have a great time listening to them. Want to thank Manny the Martyr for supplying music to our podcast. In our show notes, you'll be able to see a link where you can listen to some of their other tunes. And finally, you, dear listener, thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. We value your feedback. Any feedback you'd like to send to us, there are several ways you can do that. Email address is email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. Or you can go to the website, go to the About Us page, and there's a contact form you can fill out. We do have a Discord that you can join, and we do have a section specifically for feedback. Discord is free to sign up, and the apps are free in the app stores. We do have open invitation on our homepage. On our Discord, we post a lot of news items, stuff for discussion, stuff to laugh at, stuff to listen to, and we'll do some fun stuff on the Discord. We just had a movie night here a couple of nights ago. So if you want to come hang out with us, you're more than welcome to come join us. On social media, we're on Facebook, The Fellowship of the Geeks. On Instagram, Twitter, and Bluesky, we're at Fellowship Geeks. If you want to follow our personal Twitter accounts, Mike can be found at Mikey Geek. Liz can be found at LN_Geek. Les may or may not be found at Fake Les Webster, and I can be found at Tom TC Geek. And from wherever you download and listens to our episodes, if you'd be so kind as to rate and review the show, it would be greatly appreciated. Anything else before we say goodbye?
Just thanks, everybody.
Oh, thanks, everybody.
Appreciate you listening.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We appreciate the support as always. Until next time, geek on, my friends.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook at The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,